I am Ms. Gauri Bhosle, pursuing a bachelor's degree in food technology from Sharat Chandraji Pawar College of Food Technology, Chipulun. Now, I would like to introduce the anchor of today's session and the alumni of our college, Mr. Mayur Advani sir. Mr. Mayur Advani has completed his bachelor's degree in food technology from Sharat Chandraji Pawar College of Food Technology in the year 2015. He has resumed his career from Godavat Foods, Kolhapur, as quality control executive in snack food industry for 2 years, and also from Pelagic Foods, Bangalore, as quality assurance executive. Currently, he is running his own enterprise in Goa in manufacturing of food ingredients for bakery and ice cream industry. He has manufactured products such as cake glares, fruit fillings, choco paste, and allied products. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Mayur to take over the further proceedings. Mr. Mayur, sir.
Thank you, Gauri, for such a wonderful introduction of mine. And so, good afternoon to everyone. So, I would like to thank Gauri for the initial introduction of mine and such a relevant and sweet introduction. I welcome everyone in the sixth webinar series. The topic of today's webinar is trends and opportunities in food industries. So, now we will be moving into the virtual tour of the most important and burning topic in food industry, that is Food Safety and Standard Act 2006, Rules and Regulation 2011. I have immense pleasure in introduction of our honorable speaker, Mr. Sathish ji. So I would like to introduce our today's honorable speaker in short. So Sathish sir has completed MSc in biotechnology from Bangalore University. He has working experience of around 13 years in quality and relevant operations. Currently, he is designated as Corporate Quality Assurance Manager in Global Consumer Products, and he is responsible for quality assurance in program and regulatory affairs like licensing of 8 manufacturing units. So it is a big job indeed. And Satish sir had previously worked with renowned organizations like Cadbury and in quality and food safety department for around 7 years, and also with Mars International Limited as assistant manager supplier quality assurance between 2013 to 2017. The feather in the cap is that Mr. Satish ji is leading the organization in strategic planning, FSSC certification, and certified FSMS. He is a certified FSMS lead auditor. So we all know the importance of lead auditor and what auditing part plays in food industry. And so we would like to learn many things from Mr. Satish ji. And now I would request our honorable speaker to proceed with the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mayur. Thank you, Mayur, for the introduction. And thanks everyone for joining this webinar session. And I would like to thank the SP College of Food Technology Management for providing an opportunity to speak on this Food Safety System Regulation and Act. So let me just screen share the shot. Okay. So once again, it's a good afternoon, everyone. It's a warm afternoon that I'm going to take this opportunity to present and explain you on the Food Safety Standard Act, which was rolled out in 2006. And earlier it was called as a PFA, Prevention of Food Adulteration Act. So after this metamorphosis change, which has happened from PFT to here, I'll just take you through few items because I think most of your target audience is something like college students. I will keep it very simple and try to make it that everybody understand and follow this one, because this particular subject is an ocean where a lot of regulations and acts are there. But I would like to keep it simple, and the people follow that what to be done after your college complete pass out, or you want to pursue a career in the next future. What is that you wanted to take out from this presentation? So I'll make it very simple. And end of the session, definitely you can have your own questions can be put up into the chat box, where I'll try to understand and answer your questions as queries. So let me go forward. So first of all, I think you should know, why do we need this laws, food laws? Because if you, as I told in the past, where we have a PFA, and they wanted to have a one single rule or one single systems everywhere, that people should not have ambiguity, because this particular thing is very very important, that we keep it a very one kind of system or one kind of rules and regulations across the industry. Because if you consider, there are n number of rules and regulations were followed to harmonize that one. They bought particular food laws, which is called as FSSC 2006 Act. You are looking at the picture, like what I want to pursue this picture, what is like, everyone comes with their own product stating that yes, this is good for a lot of health benefits and other advertisement. But as a consumer, what you need to be have a basic minimum knowledge, so that when you, before consuming a product, you should check and pursue and just go forward. So that is one thing. This is a picture. You can just see the people. If you go to any store, you will find out n number of products nowadays. A lot of industry are coming with the products, but you should be minimum basic requirement has to be known for the people as a consumer. Just I'm going to explain one by one. Here, why do we need laws? This food safety law, like first important thing is we have to protect our consumers. As an industry practices, we should all protect our consumers, so that consumer is a king for any food industry. So we should be very genuine to the consumer, making available informations are visible to him, and making that all the informations are available at a one end or one product. And most importantly, the safety, which we can also turn it as a food safety, because we are talking about the food safety regulations and other things, where food safety is an important part. To ensure that food safety, what are the regulations we have come up with, putting this all the regulations in place, and how do the food industry has to follow, and to prevent for the unfair trade practices. There are a lot of practices happening in terms of trade, like they should be very fair enough to give our justification or rational for our product which is being manufactured here. Then a customer get value for their money. Now see, as you know, all customer is a king, and he has to value whatever the product has been manufactured by each industry. So in that aspect, everything is made available on the on the product packs, so that he will get all the bare minimum information, so that he will value the money whatever he's paying to get that product, he will be valued. And certain like setting standards, there are a lot of standards which I will take you to a presentation when you will come to know where a lot of standards has been applied. If I want to manufacture any product, what are the things I need to refer, or how do I should follow this particular systems. Then yes, as a manufacturer, all it's a big vast industry where it should be uniform playing field should be there for all manufacturers. So it's a one single platform or one single standard, one single setting of the standard which should be available, so that everybody will be keep manufacturing at a different food category, but end of the day they have to comply for the system set for that one. And finally, it is a facility to global trade and special requirements of each country. Because in India, this is something which we are very very stringent on FSSR. But however, the other country, they have taken or incorporated some of the standards. However, it has to be ensured that social requirements of each country has to be met. So this is something which I wanted to give you a short description where how the food laws is there in a different countries. When you go to the USA, the US FDA, which most of the people are aware, where for meat, egg, and the poultry industries, where they follow the general foods you said, and Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, which is DSHIA. And this is for basically for the Food Modernization and Safety Act, which has been US has bought. This was in somewhere in the last couple of years back. Food and Drugs Act, which is Canada, borrows heavily from that USA, because those are very periphery countries which they take a few of the systems or the act from this US. So they have taken some, incorporated some of the act, and they have made it as one rule. EU regulation, same. Most of the countries have followed this one. 27 countries will follow this one, but most of the countries will follow the same, like European regulation, which is EU. And Food Safety Act, which is some of the part of the UK, and Australia and New Zealand follow that food standard Australia and New Zealand regulations. So this is just a short description for you. What are the types of country where the regulations are in different countries. And finally, Codex Alimentarius Commission. This already most of the people are aware, where this sets a standard across all nations. And they consult when they want to bring out any rules or regulation. They normally consult, and they'll be informed to get all the informations. And finally, many small countries who doesn't have a very robust or rigid kind of rules and regulation, they just take out from all these regulations or all this act, and they try to incorporate as a one country law. So now let's just this is a gist of the overall what are the different types of standards followed across the country. And now the main topic, food safety system of India. Here I would like to just give a very basic introduction. What is that Food Safety Standard Act like 2006? You can see there is an act and regulations. Act is something, it's a very guiding principles where there are a lot of basic objectives and principles have been met, and this is basically formed and passed by the parliament. So that is what we called as an act, the first terminology of our FSSR. And the rules and regulation is something that implementation, like once the act has been set up, and how do you implement these rules and regulation by working with incorporating with the aspect of this law. And this is made by the concerned ministry like MHA. There are many concerned ministry are there where they will do and implement these systems and standards. So this was something you as I already know, most earlier it was PFA. Now this act was passed in the parliament in 2006. That's the reason it's called as a FSSI to Act to 2006. And these regulations were under act were made effective from 5th August 2011. This is the past which they have implemented and they gone completely available. And even the regulations with respect to the act, and the objective of this act was to make one law for foods instead of many. Earlier there are many, it was something like you can say it is all part by part law were available. So just make it as a one blanket or one umbrella which they made it as a food list of instead of many, so which is called as an FSSR. And in this, however, there are some old laws which were there, legal metrology and package commodity rules and BAS and Infant Milk Substitute Act. These are still continuing along with that one of the FSSR. There is no change in this one. These laws keep on continuing along with the FSSR one. Okay, here just a brief explanation for you how the system is there. Like how, example, when a Minister of Health and Family Welfare, the Food Authority, how this is an umbrella, or you can say this is a overall structure of an FSSR, how they forms. And where in the Food Authority Department, there will be chairperson and 22 members from industry and eminent food technologies, scientists across the regulations. Then Central Advisory Committee will be there, where chief executive officer that represent from food and industry. And this is an executive body who are implementing rules and regulations. Whenever any new rules and regulations have been amended and notification was gazetted over, this they have to implement and execute. So this is the one body which will be setting. And this consists of your state food safety commissioner, everyone, where individual state wise we have a FSSR or food safety, where they will give you an indications of how to implement other things and all. Apart from that one, there are vertically where we have scientific committees, scientific panels and all. Here we can see here the state food commissioner, designated officer and food safety officer. And here in this state wise, when you want to get any license, these are all the people who plays a role. You have to be consulted and you have to get the information from these particular people to get our licenses and rest other any implementation new act or something. So this is a basic elaboration of FSSA structure in a state wise. Now, what is their roles and responsibilities, and also what is their role basically when it comes to the panels? What are they going to incorporate, or what they are going to input from their end? This is something like all like food additives, flavorings, and other contact materials. How they every day and now or every future how they improve so that the standards are has to be very stringent and other things which comes to the food part. And pesticide and antibiotic residues. So like any food industries which producing this particular food, and it should be free from all these things, pesticide and antibiotic residues. And here they keep on setting the standards. So I think you may get a notification and everything where they standardize or they keep on reviewing the pesticides. Earlier it was around 149 and that they keep on adding and they have been increased up to some 200 plus. And the antibiotic residues and GM foods and other organisms. And these are all the what is it, categories or the cases what they have: functional foods, nutraceuticals, diabetic and other similar products. And next is all about the biological hazards which are incorporated, which is coming out from the raw materials, and how do they address, and how do we put up a limit and standard so that all industry puts up a standard so that it will not cross the limit. I think in the future, in upcoming slide, we can have a one explanation how the Nestle incident which has happened, how do the people were taken care, and how it was been eliminated. Then contaminants in overall food chain, which I will going to explain in the HACCP. It's a very brief one, considering all your HACCP, VASAP, and TASAP, which I will explain in the upcoming slide. Again, labeling, sampling method, and analysis. These are all the bulletin points which we are considered as part of the scientific panel members. Okay, this is just a definition for you to understand what is that food means or what is a food business means. Anything intended for human consumption broadly, which they tell it as a food, includes of all your water and additives and etc. And food business means anything undertaking or profit or not, but any industry who does in all these sectors: processing, packaging, storage, transportation, distribution, all across the supply chain. This will be what they call it as a complete supply chain, where that called as a food business. Again, same: consumer, unsafe food, and substandard food. See, now here it's a very important for you people to guide what is the consumer includes a person or family is purchasing or receiving the food in order to meet their personal needs. There are certain times where that people call as customers and consumer. Consumer is where directly take the product and they consume. And the customer is something they buy the product and they can give it to some other things, and they can consume, which can be customer and consumer. And unsafe food and substandard food. Here, I would like to just touch upon some of the aspects, like what is unsafe food means, like any nature of substance of quality is affected. So that will definitely impact or injurious to the health of a consumer or a human being. That is called as an unsafe food. Here, just to take an example, like the food which is manufactured, like example, any chocolate, say confectionery items, or you have beverages, you have juices, everything. If it is not meeting to the nature what has been designed for that product, like example, you will get some metal contamination, you will get some any other foreign particles in that one, which is not food fit for human consumption, which is called as an unsafe food. Substandard is food is again we have a specified standards right from your nutritional claim, right from your all the, like what I explained in terms of antibiotic residues or any pesticide residues, all those things. And if you're meeting all, if you doesn't acknowledge or doesn't have those things, then it is called as standard food. Any of that items getting into the product which makes the product a substandard, which is called as a substandard food. And always please make sure this specifies standards, but not sure that the article of foods is all unsafe. There are a very clear cut difference between the unsafe food and the substandard food. Okay, this is something like as a salient points as a FSS Food Safety Standard Act, a single window, as I already told, this is just to make it as a harmonized kind of a regulation. This is one window where everything is available on this particular regulation. And this is an independent authority where in the Ministry of Health, where it acts as an independent authority, where the Food Safety Standard Act of people will be working under this rules or regulations, where they keep on adding and providing the inputs into this particular law. And that there is a new act differentiate mistakes by food business operator, which is injurious to health and which is not. Here it is very important, the differentiation mistakes by food FBO, what we call as a business operator. They have to make sure this law is very important, and they should make sure it should be complying to this set of standard, whatever they have been set. In the old PF Act, all were considered same addition, all those things. Like, yes, it was something what they were telling, addition of water to milk and addition of poison to milk in the PFA. But here they have made a very clear cut differentiation and regulations. What if it is added, what like adulteration, if it is added, that is poison or something, which is come up with this different called system, like I will explain in the further slide. So they have, for everything, they have got a particular standard and particular system set. So we have to follow that one. We have to adhere for that one. Okay. See, this is very important for you to understand. Like now the consumers are very, very vigilant, and they now, as with the social media in place, they will be always any issue which leading to the product complaint that will spread like anything. And and consumers are very aware. Awareness has been created across the consumers. What they tell, these are some of the penalties and clauses which has put by FSSI. Any misbranded foods or adulteration or for economic gains or misleading advertisement, they have to pay the penalty of rupees up to 2 lakhs. Okay, here what happens basically, the misbranded food, something like, yes, whatever the branded foods not meeting to your packaging and labeling requirement, or adulteration, you are adultering the food while adding a different constituent where it was not a part of a food, and any misleading advertisement. Your advertisement should be very crisp and clear. That should explain only on your product. It cannot be something whether different apart from your product, which is making a consumer a misleading. And also, like, if any penalty for manufacturing selling unsafe food, like already I told you what are the unsafe food means. If that unsafe food can attract to a imprisonment of 6 years and and fine up to life imprisonment in severe cases. It all depends on the cases or what you get the complaint. Here, just I would like to touch upon one thing. The maybe this keep changes. It all depends on the severity of the complaint or all those things. And maybe one thing you have to remember, the nominee which is there as a company, that will get affected. So the nominee is an FSSA. If you want to get a license, the nominee should be there. So the nominee will have this kind of all this act and imprisonment and the fines. And manufacturing and selling without license would attract imprisonment and fine. Again, every manufacturing unit should have a license, valid license, before you produce any products. Okay. Next, I'll just explain you. There is a food safety standard and rules and regulation. This FSSR has got one rule and 18 regulations. So I'll just explain in the upcoming slide what is that rule and what is that regulations. So as students, what you are been to the now third year or fourth year, it doesn't be applicable for everything for you as a go forward. But I will try to cover and explain what is important for you for the upcoming, maybe for next future, which you need to know when you work for any food industry, all those things. So now one is on the food safety and standard licensing and registration of food business. So now earlier, if you would recall, like all petty shops which are being sold out in the roadside, or even a small petty shop who's put it in the any of the corner of a city, those people doesn't require any registration or licensing. Now this is something they made mandatory. Now everybody would is even including a small petty shops has to be registered, and they should get a normal license in the form 2. It is a form B which is called as that form 2 has to be registered. Then other, obviously the manufacturing players or any other supply chain in terms of warehousing or importers, they have to definitely get the license for this one. And license is required for both manufacturing, storage and sale. This is a supply chain where in manufacturing, storage and sales, these all three distributor, including everything, everybody should register a license and they should have a license in place. So establishment of GMP is a prerequisite for obtaining a license. So when you want to get a license, there are a couple of requirements where everything has to be met. And that includes with all your documentations or with respect to your GMP of the facility, good manufacturing practices. And also there are certain requirements right from your water report or you have director's list, and there are certain where with respect to form schedule 4 requirements you have to comply, then you have to get the license. See, once you get a license, definitely, or before getting a license, the food safety officer may inspect the premises, or if any deficiency found, or if it is not meeting to the set of standard what they have, then he may give a improvement notice, and you need to improve further, and you have to find out, or you need to show them this, yes, my complete facility is not up to the mark, and I need to improve further in terms of all GMP or storages or the personal hygiene point of view. Then then only he will issue the license upon after giving the necessary improvements after 14 days. In case if you doesn't able to give anybody of that particular person, then the license will be cancelled and not complying with the standards. And this is again just for rules, what it actually means. It's all about describing the sampling process, analysis, launch of prosecution, and appeals. This will be in explain in detail in the upcoming slide. What is that for as a food industry? So this is one of the regulations. Like yes, I already told you, when any food industry want to start, they have it called a food category. So the product standard has to be defined in the food category. Which food category? They are got from 1 to 15 category standards. So like example, if it's come to 15 proprietary food example, and then you have got a 7 for biscuit, where there is a subclasses will be there. You have to categorize and you have to put it into the license. Then in terms of proprietary food, there is no standards has been set, but actually it asks for a lot of details when you define it as a proprietary food. And you have to give a proper evidence and rationale when you get the licenses, which may includes like your what is that lab study, like example shelf life study. If you are declaring your product shelf life as 6 months or 1 year, you have to define and you have to prove that one. Yes, my product will be valid for 6 months, consisting of everything, all the parameters defined will be within the specification. There is no change in the specification. So then again, additive category and other different categories have been already told. As I already told, it's 1 to 15 categories will be there. However, that will be defined based on the food category. Like either it comes to a biscuit category, where we come to a snacks category, or where you want to opt as into the chocolates or confectionery. So likewise, we have a categories accordingly that has to be classified. And this is about a small gist of your nutraceuticals regulations, or the health supplement, where describe the standards for the health supplements, food for special medical purpose. These are all the things which you need to mention. In anybody who is producing has to be put it on the packaging label. And whether it is a pre or probiotics, there are certain foods already, like coming with enriched with probiotics, enriched with prebiotics. So for that particular case, when you want to put it as a probiotic food, you have to justify, or you want to make sure that will comply for all the standards set for this particular food category. And this is very important. Like when actually in any industry produce the product, these are all very important aspect, that they have to test and comply for these particular contaminants and toxin residues. Here we have got a in the FSSR, they have set a very good standard and systems. What would be the limits which needs to be put for category wise? Example, heavy metals, mycotoxins or aflatoxins. Then NOTs, what we call as naturally occurring toxins like substances, chemicals like melamine, then histamines, pesticide, example. So here, what did I just wanted to quote an example. I think you mostly aware of 2015 ka Nestle ka incident, where that they have found a lead. One of the heavy metal which was more than the set of standard which was by FSSR. However, yes, it was a very nightmare fight between the Food Safety System Committee as well as the Nestle. One of the lab got identified that the lead content was with more than the specified limits as per FSSR. But yes, I think they have tried out, and what they were proposing is, yes, I need a report from something like an NABL accredited lab. So then they have sent to one of other two labs which got as a, yes, the results were same what they were procured, they were allotted. But however, I think most of the labs, I think it's more than 4 to 5 labs of across the country, across the state, has given that is within the limit. But however, they I think tons of thousands of kg, thousands of tons of the product has been burned out and they have been discarded. So that itself is known what is the importance of this one. If you are not able to comply, or any food industry is not complying, they will have a severe effect on this kind of issues. So as an industry, make sure that now it has made a rule that biannually, matlab every once in 6 months, every industry has to test their product complying to this standard. This is about the restriction of sales, which is not more relevant to you people, but it's one of the other category, like especially prohibit certain foods like ghee with other substances. Like how do you prohibit, or the mixture of admixture of two different edible oils or non-iodized salts into the retail sale, and more important, the infant and weaning food. So these are all some of the food category where, as per the what are the set limit that needs to ensure that you comply for that standard. Just an example, I'll show you. These are the fortification. This is also one of the regulations which they put it. Any milk should be can come with a vitamin A and D, vegetable oil with, you might have seen. I'll have some of the picture, I'll show it to you, how it is been fortified. Matlab added. Fortification matlab something you are adding the make the food into the more nutritional. So vanaspati, there are certain levels are not specified, which is called as the other foods, which is not mandatory, but definitely the permitted is fortified logo should be there, and what are you are going to add into that food has to be properly mentioned on the packaging label. This is one of such example. You can see here fortified with vitamin A and D. So this is the logo which needs to be put on that one. And upcoming slide, I'll explain you anyway what is that package, what is that FOP and what is that BOP. That is a front of pack and back of pack. What are the requirements has to be made for individual packs or in terms of both FOP and BOP. But you can see the fortified with vitamin A and D, that symbol should be available. When you do any fortifications or any mixture added, this thing should be have with that logo. So this is one more again regulations which talks about the deals with the process and approval of novel foods, ingredients, additives, and probiotics. Here it is very it's very important that you have to provide all the relevant information with respect to these foods, whatever you categorize. Then only that FSSR body will approve, and it will make sure that you have to go to the next steps. Else there will be no license issued, or you are not authorized to produce these products at any given point of time without having the proper valid license approved by FSSR. So this is one more regulation with respect to import. When you should have a proper procedure of importing. While we do any import of material or any product, what are all the documents to be required submitted with respect to that product portfolio, or with respect to that how do you process them in a different sectors, or also the sampling. When it get a import clearance, has to be proper sampling and analysis to be done. Then only the clearance will be given by the relevant the people who are there in the importing section. However, they are also got some certain exemption on this class, but they are not very closer to the. I think they have a very good stricter one or the rigid one when it comes to your food import regulations. Okay, this is again one more regulation. It's very important, and as you are a student, definitely should know very well when you pursue a career into any industry, because this is very important. And might be in India, it may not into the bigger aspect, but when you just get into the other countries, they have a lot of recalls. So here in FSSI, they've made it very clear how the recall has to be done, how to recall and how to inform, who are all to be informed. When you want to recall a product, it's very clearly it has to be given information to the authority of FSSR, and you have to take the back traceability of your product. Traceability, like you have a forward traceability and backward traceability. You have to completely get all the information of that particular manufacturing product, and then you can recall that one. So then what is the product which to be recalled, at what stage the recall has to be considered as a complete documentation, and each step is a very systematic procedure is been defined by the FSSR. So that needs to be followed very clearly. Else this particular recall may not be successful. It can be called as an incomplete recall. Okay, this is very important topic for you people, because this is called as a food safety standard packaging and labeling regulations, where it deals with all labeling aspect of pre-packaged foods and general labeling information of pre-packed foods, and specific labeling requirement are set of standard for packaging material in terms of types and quality. And if you want to define this labeling, what is that include? There are 11 to 12 requirements that every packaging label should include all these things. So this is one of the important law, and it is very important for all the industry stakeholders. Okay, this is all again definitions where you should know that one pre-packed food, something like a packed, which is already placed in a package so that the contents cannot be changed without tampering it or with and ready to sell for the consumer, which is called as a pre-packed foods. I think you have seen in most of the even when you go to the mall or you go to any food these things food outlets, you can see most of them are pre-packed foods. Now these pre-packed foods considered to be one of the novel one where that prevents from lot of other things, which can be explained in the next slide. And more important, best before, we have to have a best before. Why this best before is required? So that should be remind when you declare this best before, so that the product which has been declared in your food or the pack, that should remain as same, and the condition that particular should be very specific, and it should not have any impact on the food, and it is perfectly safe for consumption. And however, the any quality of that should not be any diminished, or it should be degraded. So that is called as a best before. See, these are all some of the things I'm just showing you where locally made in the shops where they doesn't put anything. They just have one logo. And so as a consumer, it is very important. Now from October 1st onwards, they have made very clearly for sweets and other things, you have to have a best before for all the packs which has been manufactured. So then date of manufacture, has already know, it is a which date it got manufactured. And again, date of packing, where which date has been placed, immediate content. Like example, date of manufacturing is different and date of packing is different. Date of manufacturing, what you do, the manufacture the product, but you may pack after 3 days or 4 days, which is called as a date of packaging. So that, and the container, which is called as a secondary packing, which needs to be mentioned, and ultimately it is to be sold like that. What is the date of packing? It cannot be date of manufacturer. Lot number or code number or batch number, this is very important for any product, just to distinguish or identify that particular product, so that in the future, like what we call as a traceability purpose or recall, this plays an important role during that particular time. Yes, non-vegetarian food, you always know there is a two types of logos which will come. It's a brown and a veg logo, where it contains whole part of any animal, including birds, fresh and other things. And that to be very clearly given in the logo wise, where any consumer can easily identify it and provide his inputs. Or while buying, it can be very important, where a clear-cut dimension for him to buy, whether it's any veg or non-veg. So then ingredient, again, it's a substance which is added into the our whole product during manufacturing process, that will be present in the final product, and that can be again, I think, converted or modified into a different form. Ingredient is also called as a raw material, each ingredient. Okay. Use by date or recommended last consumption date or expiry date. This is very important to have this particular on the packs, so that your storage conditions are to be very well defined, so that the food, whatever it has been defined, whether use by date or the expiry date, it can be used, easily identified, and after that, consumer should be very clearly, the food cannot be sold, and he should get an idea for those people, that particular requirement. Okay, principal display panel. Here I will explain you with an example. There is an upcoming slide. What is this principal display panel? I will explain. Basically, this is for defining the different requirement. Like we have a best before, we have a batch number or the lot number or a net weight. So when you want to define with a what is the character height or the character width, that particular product, this principal display panel plays a pivotal role on that particular things. So customary condition display, everything will be it's given in the form of last packaging, this one, so that it can be easily identified. Okay, this is just a gist of that one. All prepackaged food would be labeled with any. I've shown you certain examples in the picture where most of the packs will not come up with all the labeling requirements. They come only with the only brand logo and some other requirements, but either the nutrition information or anything related to ingredients label or the veg logo, or you certain requirements about complying to the what is that additives are added, is there anything flavoring substances. I'll just show you, but those should be very clearly labeled. And these regulations should be defined in the English or in the, especially in the Devangiri script. There is a one script which you go to the font size where this has to be provided in this script. Then label and prepack food shall be applied in manner for become separated from the container. So it should not be separated. It should be very clearly visible on the container, and it fetch all the relevant information. Then contents on the label shall be clear, prominent, indelible, and legible for the consumer. See, whatever you're giving an information or whatever you're giving as a part of a label, that should be very clear and it should be legible for our consumer. Consumer should read very clearly and he should not have any ambiguities. So he can just pursue, yes, these are all the requirement is which is already available in this packaging. This will make easy for a consumer to identify and get the things very clear from his point of view. Yes, I'll just explain you what is the principal display panel when it comes to FOP and BOP. First important is on that labeling regulation, the name of the food should be very clearly defined and what is the purpose of that one. And the ingredients, this is all comes under the back of a part of a BOP, back of pack information. When you make this product, what are the types of ingredients you use? And always make sure that should be listed in the part of a descending order with the higher number of percentage to the lower one. And the composition is always can be considered by the weight of volume. In case of additives, the class name along with the name and the additive of INS number can be given. See now, I think majority of the packs you can see still they are existing with E series. Example E337, E36 example, those things. But it should be always international numbering system, what is called as INS. That should be mentioned. So this is the one you can see. This kind of product you can see across most of the market without any labeling requirement or the information which is given, and it is sold in the petty shops and other things. Which this is not acceptable. Where they have to define. There are most of the times they will seize this kind of product and they will give a notice. But however, still in India it is running, which needs to be labeled and improved upon. And this is something which I was talking about, how the ingredients has been classified with the manufacturer or imported or marketed best before everything. It like this, it should be very clearly legible and edible so that everything is available so the consumer don't have any ambiguity to read. Here, see example, this particular requirement is something, any package food sold as a mixture or combination, we have to disclose the percentage. Like if you're doing a cocoa powder, cocoa butter, and when it comes to chocolate, when you make it a two different mixture or the salt of mixture, that should be properly given, or it should be disclosed with the percentage. That will give a very clear indication for a consumer, what is the percentage they have added in that one. And also whenever there is in the FOP, when you give a picture of any fruits or something, again that requires it has to be mentioned in the back of pack information. That's what it's here. If you are emphasizing the present in the label through words or pictures or graphics. Again, nutrition information is one of the important aspect in the BOP, where it is mandatory for 100 information for 100 gram or ml as per the serving size. And these are all, when it comes to nutrition information, these are all the units you have to mention. You cannot have a different units. The energy should be always in kilocalories, fats in grams, protein in grams, carbohydrates in grams, and sugar in grams. And there is a one called as a sodium, where that should be in mg. Here it is not included, but always the sodium should be given in mg. Or any other nutrient where the claim is made, that is to be given in the form of a nutrition information. So this is what you can see the picture, nutrition information per 100 gram. They have given all in grams. Again, the cholesterol is in mg and the sodium will be in mg. Rest all is the energy will be kilocalories and rest of the other things should be in the gram. So certain things are very India specific. Like you can see, always Indians always categorize or bifurcate. They want it to be very clear. So it should be vegetarian or non-vegetarian logo should be present across all the packs. And vegetarian logo is not required for milk powder, water, carbonated water, which they're telling, because that is something they got an exemption where they can, it's not mandatory in terms of that one. But it's a debate where a specific milk is a vegetarian, but this is a standard set by this FSSR that it is not required. Flavor declaration here to be declared as follows. I think you can see there are three types of flavor declaration: contains added flavor, So then you have to write whether it is a natural or nature identical or artificial flavoring substances. When it comes to artificial, that needs to be you have to given in the brackets, because natural and nature identical cannot be, it can be given or it cannot be given. There is no mandatory. But whenever you use any artificial flavoring substances, it should be very clearly put it in the brackets, including what is that. Same for this color. Color has got natural color, then permitted synthetic food colors, as well as the natural and synthetic food colors. When you add more colors, matlab it's something like you have a multiple colors. It should be you have to mention in the brackets as S with a plural form. So that statement is displayed along with the INS number. And here it's very clear, as I told, it should be in the INS number. It cannot be with the name of the color. It should be always coded in the INS coded form. Yes, apart from this one, it consists of your address of the manufacturer and the packer if they are different. In case, yes, you're manufacturing product in a one facility, and if you're packing a same product in a different facility, then it should have both address of manufacturer and packer. And in case if you want that is to be imported, that again the same has to be available. So next, I already told net quantity, whether it is in weight or volume, which is in gram or ml or kg, everything has to be mentioned in net quantity. This is very important as part of legal metrology as well as. Then lot code or batch identification, date of manufacturing or packing, when this particular product was manufactured or packed, month and year. The fraud products with more than 3 months of shelf life, then you have to be given for month and year. Date, month, and year for products with less than 3 months of shelf life. Individual date should be incorporated when if the product less than 3 months. If it is more than 3 months, its month and year can be incorporated. And these are the different types of best before declaration where you can put it on to all our products. As industry has to best before months from the packaging, months and year or months from the manufacturer. Here, in case any product is having a shorter shelf life, then you have to put it as a best before. The date is very compulsory, that is very mandatory, month and year, or best before days from packaging, or best before days from the manufacturer. But always the month and the year should be in numerals, and normally it can be a 2-digit. I'll just show you I have a certain picture for you. I think you can just see in that one. For expiry date and use by date for infants foods, which you need to incorporate as part of that one. And for foods used lesser than 7 days shelf life, use by date shall be given, and the manufacturing date may not be given. Always, whenever there is a product which is lesser than 7 days, that always should reflect as a use by date rather than the manufacturing date. I think bread, all those things comes under this kind of category. So this is one which you see used by 22nd May 2008. Even though that doesn't have a manufacturing date, that should reflect as a use by date. Okay, this is on more onto the imported products. Like whenever you import any product, always it should be very clear. It should be marked on the country of origin, from which country the food has or the product has been imported, or in the instruction for use, including the reconstitutions, and where this is applicable. Like example, what is application of use of this product has to be mentioned, and all these things should be very very clearly mentioned on the label, so that the consumer will properly utilize and he will consume in a proper in a very fashionized way, that so that there will be no issues or related to doubt of that particular product. So here the regulation specifies the size and number of the different size of the container, which I will tell you again. It is the last but fourth slide. I have this one. In that one slide, I will try to cover what is that principal display, where are the numerals and letters, what is that size of the containers, how it is been fitted. That I will explain to you. So this is one thing which I want to show you to. If it is the infant formula, it is very clearly legible, and they should tell very clearly to be taken under medical advice or important notice. Mother's milk is best for your baby. This is not a replacement, definitely, but those kind of tagline has to be mentioned on the product label. Okay, this is which already told every advertisement or the packaged food of containing MSG, monosodium glutamate, shall carry the following declaration without any with they cannot miss this at any cost. This has to be incorporated in the packaging label. So this is also best example, I think, where even Nestle was also having this issue MSG, which they told it is more than the limit what they had. No monosodium glutamate, but they have founded some of the traces. Okay, this is one of the example like how the net weight should be MRP or the batch number or the PKD date. And best before it should be always mentioned on for any packing. Here, I'll just explain you very crisp, very in a very short span. Like, see, net weight always should be given in gram or ml or kg, which is very clear. And when you define a net weight, always it should be equal space should be given on the top. Like example, if you're giving it 2 of that character, so there should be no any overlap or character which is printed on the top and bottom surface of the net weight. And it should be double the distance. Like if it is 2 the 4 and 4 gap should be defined on the horizontal space of the both adjacent side. And MRP, net weight, MRP example, these are all based on the principal display panel. How do you define this, the overall size of that character height? That I will explain you. Again, this is the same thing like one of packaged food contents or the sweetener, artificial sweetener should have carry the following label. They should very clearly mention, yes, this contains what is that and name of the artificial sweeteners. Then not recommended for children and quantity of sugar added gram per 100 gram. This is something they have to mention and no sugar added in the product in case if there is no sugar and not for phenyl ketonuria. This is if aspartame is added, then it has to be mentioned not for phenyl ketonuria. If it is, they have to be very clearly mentioned because certain like, people or the consumer have this kind of diseases which they have to be very clearly identified and they should come to know this one. Okay, this is one of the examples which I already explained. It contains caffeine, contains artificial sweeteners and for calorie conscious. You can see here where the no sugar added in the product and not for phenyl ketonurics. So this is one of the diseases which you know, like actually that is why where they have to mention this one. And this should be always mentioned on the caps, capital letters, so that it is properly legible and for the consumers to read. So this is again one of the declaration which is normally happen. You might see it in the beverages where all the water bottles and crush the bottle after use. This is something very mandatory. They have to define in the bottle, and every package of where they are having a polyols shall be have the that polyols may have laxative effects. This is also very important mandatory declaration which has to be given on the wherever they have a contains the polyols. So this is one example, pre-packaged drinking water, crush the bottle after use, which is just beside the packing drink water. So that Bureau of Indian Standard BIS, where these are all the mandatory thing which needs to cover as part of the food labeling regulations, where ISI mark should be there and covers many products and is voluntary. Many and it is have got a number of products. They have to cover this ISI and they have to give as a voluntary by at any cost. Mandatory of few food products like infant formula, infant milk substitute, or skin milk powder. So this ISI mark is very, very mandatory to put it on that packaging requirement. Okay, here just to add on the legal metrology aspect, legal metrology, this covers the packaged goods including foods but excludes drugs. Here it's only limited or specific to the foods but excluding the drugs. Here MRP to be printed, net content to be declared. The rules also stipulate like what is the certain weight or ml. When it is been packed, we have to properly define what is that weight or ml which should be given. Then contact details of the consumer, feedback, complaints, example, this has to be defined. I would like to explain one thing here. Size of the numerals, anyway, I will explain you it is in the next slide. Always there are two types of, there is a packaging and labeling regulation in FSSAI and legal metrology. When it comes to incorporation or when it comes to implementation, always the stringent one should be considered. Obviously, when you look at the overall legal metrology aspects has a very stringent consist of comparing to the your FSSI. So normally they will consider all legal metrology rules and regulations. Okay, this is what I was explaining I was just telling you right from the beginning. See, this is called as a table one as per legal metrology. Like example, when you see any product is having a MRP or the net quantity or the customer care details, as well as you can see the expiry date or the best before. This is defined based on the character height is defined on this one. Like example, if I take area of principal display panel, so there are three aspects. Example, when you have a bottle like rectangular package, where one entire side can be properly considered as a principal display. Like example, any snacks packet, you can see a Lay's, Kurkure, where they have to take one entire side of a rectangular package, then they have to calculate height into width of that one. Then you will get that area which is lesser than 50 or 50 to 100 centimeter square. Accordingly, you have to define the size. Like in this one, there are two things where minimum height of the character in mm. This is in millimeter, and the second is for anything which is blown or molded or other container. So this is a requirement. If I take my pack is less than 50 square centimeter, then my character height of the all our best before date or the net weight, all those things should be 1 millimeter, minimum 1 millimeter. You can exceed to more than that one, but the minimum requirement should be one. So same object, when it is a product which is molded or blown or the surface of the container is more than that one, then it should be 1.5. Likewise, in case of any cylinder kind of thing, cylindrical package, then you have to consider the 40% of the product of the height of the package. Like example, yes, you get a 150 square centimeter. In that one, you have to consider the 40%. Then you have to define where you fit in there. So in case of any other shape, again, 40% of the total surface of the package you have to consider. This is how you decide on the principal display panel. And then you decide on the numerical height of width of the letters, which should be printed on the packaging label. So just take an example of, I'll just summarize into all in 1 year. This is a ITCA biscuit where cookies, where you can see, I'll just explain point by point just for your understanding, where you can just recollect whatever we discussed. Like in this is called as a FOP, front of pack, where you got almonds and cashew nuts bits. So what I told is anything if you want to give in the picture, that should be given, the name should be in the percentage. Like if you convert here, you can just see here, the cashew bits is 9.25%, the almond is 2.6%. So that is something which you want to comply as an ingredient. When you given anything on the picture of any raw ingredients or something, that needs to be given in the percentage. Then this is called as a BOP, which is called as a back of pack information, and what all the minimum requirement it should have. One is on the ingredients, which I told you it should be on the descending order, where how all the ingredients have been mapped and given in the descending order. And here you can see the common salt or the emulsifiers, INS 322, INS 472. These are all the emulsifiers which they have got a specified name where that should be you cannot put it as the whole name. You have to give it in a INS number. Then we were discussed on the contents added flavors. Here you can see artificial flavoring substances and other things, where milk and natural identify flavoring substance, it is given in the bracket. So that is called as what they have defined in the artificial. Apart from that one, manufactured by address is there, or packed by address is not there here, it's only manufactured. Or for any unit address, you can have to refer, like how do you decode that manufacturing batch number. So then you have feedback and complaint. You have to be defined in one box stating that how to reach the consumer, customer care, that is given. Then nutrition information is given in all in energy, protein, kilocalories, protein in gram, fat in gram, and everything. And you can see MRP is there, net weight is there, packed, batch number, and PKD is there, and also the veg logo is also available. And then you have your what is that, the other logo where it is available, keep your clean. These are all the packaging related information. So likewise, any BOP, these are all the minimum requirements which should have as a packaging rules and regulations. So now here I've been asked to just to what is that preface on the HACCP, TACCP and WASP. I'll just take few minutes of your time because it is very important for you people where most of you, the food industry where this is very important. Without this you cannot able to eliminate, like we have discussed some of the contaminants and other things which comes from a different sources of raw materials. But as a process and system, like when you want to manufacture any product, what is the basic HACCP plan, what is available, and how it can be incorporated into your systems. That I will take an example. See, basically, they have got 7 principles and what you call as a 12 step. Here, when you want to when you want to construct any product or when you want to manufacture any product, first of all, we have to have a ASAP team. Here, what ASAP team is should be always multifunctional or multidiscipline, where it consists of from different departments. It cannot be from a single department. It should be from all the multifunctional department, just to add and gain the knowledge of hazard identification or with respect to any limit identification. It is very important to consider that the HACCP team should be multifunctional. Then once you have a multifunctional team, then you have to describe the product. Describe the product means what is the product you want to make it. You have to very clearly you have to give what is the product name, from where you will do, what is a basic process steps, how do you manufacture, who is the end consumer, how it has been stored, all those things. That is called as the, and also the age group, target age group, whether it can be consumed by all the age group or what is only consumed by the this particular age group. So this consists of the complete product has to be described. Then as I have to identify the intended use and consumer. What is that intended use you want to give? Whether it is for which consumers you have to keep this particular product, or this particular sale of this product has to be made. Then once after identifying this target or consumers and intended use, you have to construct the flow diagram. Flow diagram should be always very systematic and it should be very elaborate. There should be no steps have been missed. Like start from your raw material receiving to finished goods packing. Every stepwise in the factory needs to be constructed so that all the process steps has to be very described in a very detailed way so that no process steps have been missed. So once the construction of your flow diagram is completed, then you have to do the on-site confirmation. Like, yes, yeah, you have done the process flow diagram. It consists of some 20-25 steps. Taking the 25 steps, actually, whatever you have done the flow diagram, is it matching in the process? So that on-site confirmation has to be done. So the multifunctionary team who was there in the factory, they have to walk there and they have to give the confirmation, yes, whatever we have constructed are matching, there is no any issues or any missing of that particular steps. Then you have to do the conduct a hazard analysis. This is called as a principal one. Here hazard analysis, something hazard can comes from the process, hazard can generated from the raw materials, packaging materials, that needs to be identified. What is my severity, what is the probability, then you have to give it that number. Based on that number, you have to identify whether this hazard can be eliminated at particular stage, or hazard can be identified or eliminated in the process control, which we can as a critical control or operational prerequisite programs. So that needs to be analyzed. This analysis should happen very thoroughly in terms of both process as well as raw material and packaging material. So these three are the things where hazards can be added. So how do you add and how do you identify or eliminate? This is something which HACCP team has to do this one. Then determine the critical control points. See, based on the critical control points can be historical trend. You have got some of the data points, or you have got some of the information from the industrial trend. Like, yes, they have got some outbreaks. So all these trends has to be considered when you determine the critical control points. Critical control points can be pasteurization in the milk industry, like you have a metal detector in all most of the other industries. There are certain where they are called as screens and sieves, which can filter all the foreign particles which is generating from the raw materials, which can be few industry may it will be OPRP, whereas few industry may they consider as a critical control points. So this is how you determine the critical control points. Then establish the critical limits. Once you define the critical control point, you have to establish the what is the limit I should ensure that it should not pass to, it should not get into the our product. That limits again defined on based on the trend analysis as well as the Like what is like you have a raw material. What is that raw material? If I example sugar, my sugar, the sugar which is coming from the sugar industry, what is that the sulfur content should be there on that one. There are certain aspects which we comes from the regulation as well as building, because it's one of the allergen which we call as. So like how do you define the limit? So that is one part. Are any foreign particles, like we example codex alimentarius set for the metal detector standards, whether it should be my ferrous, non-ferrous, and stainless steel, what is the limit which I need to allow. So that is called as the establish the critical limits. Then you have to monitoring system for each CCP. CCP is defined or OPRP system that should be properly monitored. Monitor is something you have to set a frequency so that every frequency has been set has to be monitored for any issues are being percolating or occurring in that particular CCP. Like example, a metal detector you have defined, you will just set a monitoring frequency of every once in an hour, so that you will pass that standard test pieces. Then you will test the efficacy of that metal detector, whether it has been sensing as per the defined limits. So then you can have some control every hour. So if the next control you don't have that sensing, then you can just hold the product and you can just correct your all the, or you can just take out those defective products and bring take a corrective actions. So the next step is called as a corrective action. Yes, you have CCP has been malfunctioned or CCP is not working as per the defined limit. Then what are those corrective actions you are going to take so that it will not repeat or reoccur in the future? So those corrective actions should be validated, verified, and it should be very uh, properly put in place so that it will not repeat. So certain correct, so those kind of tough corrective action has to be ensured. Then you have to have a verification procedure, same for the correct, whatever the verification is something like you do verify in a different aspect for different people, or calibrate in a from a different maybe from this supplier point of view or the factory point of view. Those kind of those verification procedure needs to be put in place to ensure that my our set of standards or set of equipment which has been designed is working effectively. Last but not the least is establish the documentation procedure. See, everything, these are something you do unless until if the documents are not properly maintained for a next future course of action, that doesn't have any what is that value for that one. For every system and process, documentation and record keeping is very important. That will give you all the systems are which has been established right from the step 1 to step 25 or 20, whatever you defined in your process, that is working effectively. Record and documentation is very important, so that can also keep you improvement as part of improvement opportunity when you find any issues in the documentation. So this is, I'm just explaining very brief in HACCP. Uh, this will definitely yeah, this is very important when you go to the next level, because all of you may be next pursuing your career into the next future industries. Now it's a basic minimum requirement. Any industry, at least they should be HACCP certified. Of course, there are a lot of any other what is improvised standards what we have called ISO 22000, DRC, other things, but this is a basic for all whatever that is a part of that system where HACCP plays an important role. Okay, next is, see, now I think you can see up to 2015 and mid of 2016, this HACCP was ruling out, yes, if you have a HACCP system in place, my food is safe, or the product which is produced in any industry is safe. But however, a lot of threats have been happened, or there are tampering or adulterations, or this started happening in somewhere in the mid of 2016 and 15. So then they come up with these two requirement called as a TASAP, which stands as a threat assessment and critical control point. Then one other is a vulnerability assessment and critical control points. So this is something where it has to be properly monitored. Yes, the that doesn't mean that you have a ASAP system in place where your food is safe, but there are certain requirement or certain other unintentional adulteration or tampering or addition into this particular process can also have your food unsafe. So there are certain examples which I have written. See, when it comes to any industry, the perimeters or the overall access to entry, access to the facility has to be properly secured. If anyone can entry without any access, there is no proper access, they can intentionally add something and they can go, which will create an unsafe food for any of the food product which is produced in the industry. Then entrance facilities, there should be no any unauthorized entry, or it should be restricted as to be prevented. Restrict prevention should be there for any unauthorized entry. And access for the roof, it is all about the buildings and other things, and it should be locked. And bulk storage, there are certain like where your raw material storage, packaging material storage, that should be properly restricted and locked. Apart from this one, there are other things like they have a water where the water tank should be properly locked. And visitors has to be properly identified, and he has to be checked before allowing into the facility. So likewise, there are a number of requirements where there are a number of reasons where the food can go as unsafe. So as an industry, all industries has to identify what are the types of requirements and what is the severity or the risk factor, and do we have any mitigation plan. Like example, if I take, yes, perimeters are secured, you should have a proper CCTV monitoring, security patrolling, and back entry gate place, boundary near canteen. If this is something is a one of the example I've taken for one of our factory. How do they monitor or verify though the threat as a sorry, TASAP is very effective, and there should be no any adulteration will happen. So this is something where as a factory as an industry which identify, and they have to put all mitigation plan in place so that we can avoid or eliminate all this kind of issues. So finally, VASP, this is again a vulnerability assessment critical control point. Uh, it all about the food supply chain. It's like start from your raw material to your consumer, where all the things can go wrong. Here, this is one of the industry which we are documented. Like when a raw materials comes from a supplier, where it should be properly tested, and we have to release based on the contaminations or based on the certificate of analysis or based on the specification parameter what we define. And we cannot take any material from any vendors. We should have a approved suppliers or approved vendor in place, where we do the audit or we assess them. We properly in a defined frequency, we will just you will justify, yes, this particular supplier is approved to take or provide a material to us. So this is something assessment which has to be done. And also vulnerability assessment can also part of like when it comes in a bill linked to the TASF, but any like bulk milk industry, or you can see any sugar, sorry, glucose, they comes in a tank. Those tanks should be our oils. It has to be properly sealed. Without sealing, they may tamper it out. They can do take some different kind of unintentional damage will be done on that one. So as an industry, these are all the identified points. The points has to be identified. What are the risk factors, and how do the risk we can eliminate into the next level. So this is a bit of a very small topic on the VASP. I think that's it. But before that one, I just wanted to just take it out for you. You people are almost in the last third and fourth year of BTech. I just wanted to touch upon few things. What is the quality control, quality assurance, and the regulation? See, now when you pass out and join any industry, now the industry, see, the widespread is something you should be knowing all the three aspects. But most importantly, what is the role of a quality control? What is the role of a quality assurance? And what is that regulatory aspect? Quality control is something just controlling the process parameters, and you are testing all the raw materials or packing materials. You are giving a control mechanism so that whatever the material used into the industry are safe. But assurance, quality assurance is a one step ahead of that one, where what of your time and or the other aspect which you are putting your effort into the control part, that should be spent on the assurance part. Like example, yes, you do a lot of analysis in the industry. Maybe when you go for internship, you will do for a different industry, you start monitoring some of the aspect of parameters and everything. But rather than measuring all that continuous monitoring or continuous measuring of that parameters, how can I ensure, or how can we ensure that that parameter will not that always behave within the specified limit, that will not deviate. So putting that assurance part or making that system or process compliance is called as a quality assurance. And also quality assurance always puts very proactive, and they always what is it, protect the or prevent the accidents. Assurance is something that you are giving an assurance so that the systems or the process put in place, that will not deviate. So that is the important for a quality assurance. Even regulations, like you will be when you move on to the how do we ensure the licensing part, how every licensing is available when we manufacture or produce a product. Our regulations with terms of all ensuring that all the regulations are met in terms of natural, sorry, toxins and any metal contaminants, pesticide residues. There are certain aspects which is defined in this regulation. How do we ensure all these things are met and my product is produced in a safe food so that consumer is safe to consume the product which is manufactured in our industry or our company, our factory, whatever it is. So this is something a basic gist which I wanted to give it on the quality control assurance and the regulation. I think that's it from mine. If you have any questions, would love to answer your questions.
Yeah, there are few questions popping out over here. So I would like to just present the questions from my behalf. The basic question which has come around is what is the primary difference between PRP and OPRP, that is prerequisite or operational prerequisites? So what
Okay.
is the basic difference with an example of that?
Okay. See, PRP prerequisite program is all something like where it is very important for any food industry that should be having. That is called as a primary controls. Like example, it's a GMP, good manufacturing practices, then personal hygiene, and you have a training, you have a pest control, and you have a traceability, you have a preventive maintenance control. These are all the primary walls. Or if I want to bifurcation as a three layers, the first primary important is PRP should be very strong in that one. So if these PRPs are very strong, definitely the systems what you wanted to incorporate or you wanted to input here, it is been taken care. OPRPs and CCPs are totally onto the system oriented. OPRP is called as an operational prerequisite program. These are all the set of requirements or set of standard or set of controls where you monitor and put in your system or in a process so that will eliminate the hazards which are identified in your process. Example, if I want to explain with the example that let's take a magnet. I think there is a magnet which is magnet and sieve or filter, what you put. A sugar and other raw material comes in your process. Sugar consists of iron fillings. As an virtue of that material, you will consist as an inherent nature of that one, it comes with iron fillings and other foreign matters, where that will reduce your all the loads of your hazards so that it will be controlled. So that will call as a OPRPs, or we call as a specific prerequisite programs or operational prerequisite programs. That will eliminate, that will give a less load to your CCPs. That is what we call as a OPRPs. And the basic differentiation of this PRP and OPRP is this is the one.
Moving on to the other.
PRP and CCP the same?
Actually, it is not the same. I would like to, I would ask you to elaborate more on that, like why OPRP and CCP are different.
See, critical control point is called as an endpoint that afterwards you don't have any control in place. Whereas OPRP is a defined set of control. You can have a 2, 3 OPRPs, but yes, definitely there will be always a CCP. That's a final critical control point where that will identify and eliminate your hazards to an acceptable level. What I told is the critical limits, what you define. But OPRPs are the systems which are put in between the process just to identify and eliminate the hazards which are coming from the different process point of view or the material point of view. But when you define a CCP, that is done based on the codex alimentarius, like you have the probability and severity, where after that you don't have any control at all. So in case of CCP is missed out, then definitely there the hazard would likely to go into the food. So that is called as the final critical control points. Whereas the OPRP is something you can put multiple OPRPs in the process itself so that you can eliminate. But CCP is the final point where after that you don't have any control system in place. So that is a difference, a basic difference of CCP and OPRP.
Okay. So another question which has aroused is what is use of barcode and how is it usually generated in packaging material? Most of the people may have observed there is a barcode on packaging material. So
Yeah.
they are eager to know like what is the use of it and how it is generated.
Yeah, it's a very good question. See, basically, this barcode is defined for an individual product. Okay. this product, this barcode will be given by some of the agents. Like we have got a GS1, this industry where they give a barcode. So they will be listing and giving a number of barcode, maybe 100 barcode or 200 barcodes. Then the barcode slot will be available with you. Then you have to define the product. What is that product? What is the grammage? What is the variant? Accordingly, that barcode has to be printed, and that needs to be assigned across the next supply chain. Like marketing will be there. Marketing will give a communication to the next seller. What we have, maybe like we have got a e-commerce, we have got a modern trade, where we have e-commerce like Amazon and other things will be there, and modern trade. They will give the details. Once we create and generate a barcode, that details will be furnished. When you have a different sites, different kinds of applications app, where you scan it, you will get a complete information of about that product. So this is how basically GS1 generates, gives a barcode, and any industry or company, they have to allot this one, and they have to give it to this to the all the respective levels. We define on the what we called as a packaging, where packaging, nothing but artwork will be generated. Then you'll put in the packaging that will be identified and will given to the rest next level of the supply chain. So that is very important.
Yeah, I guess only a few points are added in it, like net weight of the product, gross weight of the product, MRP of the product, and your date of manufacturing, and it is not included in that barcode.
No, date of manufacturing. There, apart from that one, company ka address, where it is being marketed by, or the FSSI number. So there are those things will be listed in the barcode.
Yes. Another question is regarding to if anyone is interested in starting his own enterprise. So what are the prerequisites in terms of like if they want to start their own enterprise, like you can go with the licensing part and all.
Yeah, I think Mayur, most of them are having the same questions. Actually, everybody is interested in doing that one. See, this is very important. Now it's very simple. Like earlier, now it was very difficult to get a license, and they used to go to the offices. Now everything is made online. Now the food category is different. Yes, you want to become an entrepreneur, you want to start a new business. There is a different types, like from manufacturing, your petty shops, your hotel, restaurants, even dhaba, or you have your warehouses, you have supply chain, importing everything. The food category will be defined, and you have to register, and you have to give your basic information like your maybe Aadhaar card and other related information, and you have to log in and you have to register there. First, you have to register. You want to start a business. Example, I want to take someone want to start a restaurant. He want to start a restaurant with his own thing, where he has to post the picture of a restaurant with a hygienic. They have to properly hygienically maintain. There should be no any kind of unhygienic conditions. It should be hygienically maintained. And what is a controlled manufacturing? Their example, they are preparing the food, how they are, and also the GMP of the overall environment. And you should have a proper personal hygiene of that particular people who are working there. And apart from that one, there are certain you have to give some NOC, no objection certificate from that one, and that will be called as a form B. There are 4 to 5 requirements. You have to upload those documents, and your license will be generated, and that will go to the FSSR. Certain instances, they may approve from there itself, considering the factor, or they may come into your respective or the restaurant or the factory where they come. They will inspect it, and then they will give the license, and they can start that one. But it should be very clearly descriptive what you want to start, whether you want to start a business of which category, then you have to list it at all those things. And I think I explained in my slide where they will give you 14 days of time when there is any issue. Within that 14 days of limited time, you have to address all the issues. Then they come for the second time, and they will definitely issue the license.
It again depends on what kind of criteria of the business you are doing. If you are doing a small scale business, you need to go for registration.
Yes.
So I would like to check if there is any other question apart from that. Is internship available? Some of the people are like want to know, like, is there any internship available for quality assurance in food industry? I guess this is very basic.
It all depends on their industry and company. And definitely, if you would have available, we will try. See, I was one of the alumni with Mr. Sidraju. We will definitely contact if there's something that opportunity is available. We would love to take that opportunity from the people. I think it's a
Um,
more on the part of what they are extracting and exploring and learning, and it will be good for us as well. And if that opportunity knocks, definitely we will let you.
I guess you have tried to explain all the details in very good manner, and most of the students are getting all the details. I would
Yeah.
move on to Gauri if she has any questions additional to this.
Sure, sir. Sure. So, sir, we have one question from a participant that if our students actually want to make a career in quality assurance and food regulation, what is your message for them, sir?
Uh, this is a very good question, especially, and most of the people wanted to pursue their career after their graduation or whatever they finish. See, first important thing is, yes, you should be very, very in terms of depth and details of your theoretical, because you have learned all theoretical part in your books, knowledge, and everything. But when it comes to career or the when working as a practical, those kind of will be totally different. So applying that theory knowledge is not maybe only a minimal, maybe some 30-40%. It's all about how do we acclimatize and adopt to that particular environment when you come to the what is that part, any industry has a career aspirations. But from my thing, there are two aspects which is very important for a student which is passed out and aspiring for a very good career. One is thing, please always look for a competitiveness and try to exploit all the knowledges, because now the world is very fast and they keep improving. Maybe you are in somewhere system 1, they are already into the system 5. The knowledge sharing, getting the information from one to one, other things, that should be very rapid. And secondly, you should be keep updating yourself in the systems and process what's happening in the industry. That is something. But otherwise, whatever you learned is definitely an additional one. What you are studied in the college, or what you gather the information or the knowledge, it is definitely is an added one. But 60% will be implies into a different way when it comes to industry. It's all about other aspects of whatever you learned from in the theory. So these two important aspects, what I told is very important. You have to keep updating yourself, always check for the industry standards or what's happening in the competitor people or in the overall food industry, and regulations, because regulations keep updating. Now most of the people have that website Google, where www dot if you can just go to the fssi.gov.in, they keep updating you what are the changes happening for every now and then. So those things you please keep updating. You should always keep updating yourself. These two things definitely help anybody to just do a career or aspire your career into a different fields.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. And here we are with one more question asking how do we decide the critical limits in terms of CCP?
So the critical limits, it's all decide on the three things. What you have a data points, like yes, when you do any what is that assessment, you all have the data points. Like from last 3 years, what are the data which you are considered? One is from the record evidence, one is from your own factory verification record or monitoring record, and thirdly from the data trend or from the industrial outbreak, which I already told. Like example, you have to keep reading or keep extracting from and the same industry what are the outbreaks are happening. There are some recalls are happening, there are some system issues are happening. That is one thing we have to consider. Apart from that regulation point of view, you should be always keep updated on the regulation, because now you can see that notification, gazetted notification come, the lead content or the what is that, mercury, all the metal contaminants will be having some the what is that limits, whereas in the next year they come up with a stringent one. So those things you have to keep updating. Once after having all these data points or the trend analysis or the data from the different industry or regulations, you can always put your limits. And also you should always talk to your vendors, like vendors, raw material or packaging material not plays an important role, whereas raw materials something we have to keep on talking to the vendor. Was there any changes happened in the vendor? So that will not, that will impact my critical limits. So maybe I need to change in my CCP. Today I'm keeping a something 2 mm or 1.2 mm ferrous, but the load which is coming from the sugar, which is all the iron particles, then I have to increase where my PRPs cannot able to take that load. So these are all the overall compiled approach you should have when you consider the CCP limits.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you. If any other questions? Okay.
I guess most of the questions have been answered, and there are no pending questions right now.
Okay.
So it was wonderful session, sir, and you have
Thank you,
explained all
Mayur.
the
But
things in
again,
very.
to be honest, it is not completely because it's, as I told, it's a complete ocean. It is very, very big subject where every individual regulations have got different. But as a student, like you are coming out of college, basic minimum things which these are the things which you have to know, because industry is also growing. These are all the changes happening in the overall industry. So this basic requirement definitely will help you out in your next upcoming career.
Right, sir. So, Gauri, should we close this?
Sure, sir.
You can proceed with the vote of thanks to everyone.
So yes, finally, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record a hearty thanks to Mr. Sathish sir for sharing his everlasting knowledge and guidance that he has extended to all of us during this session. This session had taken us to the height of awareness about the food safety standard rules and regulations, and this knowledge will definitely help our students for being a part of quality assurance and regulatory department. As well as also, I extend my thanks to Mr. Advani sir for their enormous cooperation in hosting of this session. We are all inspired by your words, sir. So thanking all, your anchor, Ms. Gauri Bhosle. Also, I would request you to join the next session of webinar on Unlock Innovation, the future of food post COVID-19 at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Once again, thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Gauri and Mayur. And all the very best for your next upcoming, for all the students, from my side. Wishes.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye.